Good evening, and this is the world's first and only LGBTQ daily evening television news, broadcasting live and available on demand. Available on all smart televisions, including Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, Amazon Fire TV, and of course YouTube and Facebook. It's time to queer up the news. It's Wednesday, August 10th, 2022. It's 8 p.m. And we are live and literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we're going to tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
This is the world's first live daily LGBTQ evening news show, literally out of the closet and into the headlines on Queer News Tonight with Al Ferguson.
I'm your anchor at Queer News Tonight, Al Ferguson, and this evening we bring you the news of and a perspective representing the LGBTQ plus community from South Florida, America, and across our planet.
This is the world's first and only unedited live LGBTQ plus evening news show. Whatever happens, you will see and hear it.
Happening Out Television Network is a 501c3 nonprofit media platform in the television and radio model of PBS and NPR, but for our LGBTQ plus community.
We are part of one of the largest LGBTQ plus media companies in America, Hotspots Magazine and Happening Out Television Network.
Our magazine is celebrating 36 years of the LGBTQ plus experience, and our television news, talk, and entertainment shows support our mission to educate the LGBTQ plus and broader community.
Let's begin by welcoming anchor FayWhat. She is a radio and television personality and has a popular blog and YouTube channel aiming to unite the L and the G together. She's a hostess and MC for many South Florida events, an animal advocate, and owner of Faye's Fur Family. Also, make sure to catch the FayWhat Show, the first LGBTQ plus morning television show, Mondays at 9 a.m. Eastern online or your smart television. Good evening, Faye.
Good evening, boys. So happy to be sitting around the table with you homos. Let's welcome anchor John Hayden. Oh, I can't wait to read this. John's been a journalist for 27 years and now works for several South Florida outlets, including SFTN as community editor, covering politics, arts, and philanthropic organizations. Much of his career was spent as a celebrity journalist covering the stupidity and scandals of Hollywood. John's interviewed nearly every big name in TV, movies, music, blah, 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 and once spent an evening watching a movie with the Duke of Normandy.
That's in France, right?
Actually, the Duke of Normandy is one of the many titles that Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth holds. The Dukedom of Normandy, or the Duchy of Normandy, is the Channel Islands, and that was the only part of Britain that was occupied during World War II.
Good night, everybody.
Wow, thank you so much for tuning in. Is that like near Narnia or something?
It is.
Oh my God, John, go.
That was the movie that I watched with the Queen.
I bet.
It was.
Yeah, we're done.
Let's welcome anchor Dale Stine.
Hi.
With a background in music and the arts, he is a well-known photographer, famous for his photographs of internationally acclaimed DJs, drag personas, and other entertainers, including our very own FayWhat. He is the director of music ministry at Unity on the Bay, as well as moderator of South Florida's largest LGBTQ plus Facebook group, Miami Gay List, which can be found on Instagram as @GayListOfficial. And I'm told his Grindr profile is Vote Bitch. An activist with multiple LGBTQ plus organizations, Dale is also currently vice chair of Miami Beach's Human Rights Committee. Good evening, Dale.
Thank you.
Yes. Dale, are you going to reveal, or am I, that we're just horribly embarrassed because John's father is in town in the audience?
But his father's crawling under the chair,
Yes.
even as we speak here. Yeah, okay. So let's welcome Maxx Fenning from prison. At just 17, you've thrown me completely off, John. At just 17, Maxx founded this amazing nonprofit organization that works to expand access to LGBTQ plus inclusive education and sexual health resources for LGBTQ plus youth in South Florida. Now at 20, Maxx is a senior at University of Florida and serves as PRISM's president. He's at the forefront of the fight in Florida over Don't Say Gay. Good evening, Maxx.
Good evening, and it's actually my profile name that's Vote Bitch, just for some clarity. So I know it's easy to confuse Dale and I,
Right.
but it's
Easy.
All right. Well, we are the reporters for Queer News Tonight, and this evening we begin with the queer headlines for Wednesday, August 10th.
Well, let's begin by queering up the road to Stonewall. FBI's Mar-a-Lago raid was just like the Stonewall riots, says queer log cabin Republicans. The log cabin Republicans have been turned away by the GOP, attacked for being gay, and banned from the party's meetings. And yet they continue to simp for Donald Trump. The party named for the log cabin that Abraham Lincoln grew up in originally stood up for social equality, civil rights, and fiscal responsibility. Now, like political cuckolds, they have rushed to the defense of Trump after his residence was investigated by the FBI. They tout the fact that their annual gala will be held at Mar-a-Lago like they are special dignitaries invited by the Donald, ignoring the fact that the venue can be used by anyone as long as a member of the country club signs off on it. They also compare the FBI raid to the Stonewall riots, ignoring the fact that one was a specific attack on a demographic of people and the other was part of a criminal investigation with a warrant issued by a judge who was appointed by Trump himself. The response by the log cabin Republicans was summed up best by Slade Somer, editor-in-chief of the political news outlet The Recount, when he tweeted, quote, "Is this humiliation kink?" End quote.
That's such a mic drop.
I mean, log cabin Republicans have more tools than a Home Depot.
And they are tools.
And you know what? Simp was definitely the right word, because they, like, Donald Trump just has his boot in their face and they just keep on licking it.
Well, let's explain what a simp is,
tastes
Max.
good.
Let's explain what a simp is.
So a simp is someone who is just will do absolutely anything for someone that they absolutely adore. They treat like a godlike figure. Usually it's because they think that they're hot. So I don't know.
I had many simps,
dear.
for many years, and they just do whatever you want just to spend some time with you, and that's basically what it is.
But do you think that the orange turd really gives a hoot about the log cabin? I mean, do you think he even gives him the time of day in any thought process way?
As long as they're willing to pay the fee to rent his space, at Mar-a-Lago. But the real Stonewall equivalent is that raiding of drag bars. That's what Stonewall was. And now we have a governor that literally wants to shut down all drag shows in the state of Florida. That is the real equivalent going on here. These people are just being stupid.
Well, false equivalency would just,
false equivalency.
It should be their subtitle.
Yeah, you know what? It is discriminating against a demographic of people, the most oppressed people in America, which are rich white men. Obviously.
Exactly, we're discriminating against them. You know, it's interesting to me because he wraps himself in a flag. He went for 4 years where the log cabin Republicans trumped him literally with their trumpets. Hashtag walk away, tried to say to the gay community, you should leave the Democratic Party. They don't care about you. You have a home in the Republican Party and with Donald Trump. And in the last month, we learned exactly. We kept trying to pierce this lie over and over again. And in the last month, Donald Trump did it for us. Because in the last month, he came out and said how despicable and disgusting gay people were because they were all groomers. Yeah. And I'm being liberal in my word definitions of Donald Trump, of the words that came out of his mouth. But the implications of what he was saying was to hold off Ron DeSantis, and at the expense of the LGBTQ community. So to fight off Ron DeSantis in Florida and nationally, he throws the LGBT under the bus. My question is beyond being simp. We're going to talk later at dinner, by the way. Why is Donald Trump so adored by the log cabin Republicans? What is it about him that makes them act this way?
Well, the fact of the matter is that the log cabin Republicans adore Ron DeSantis too, which also baffles me.
So the question is why? What is it they're still being so loyal to?
I mean, it's definitely, was it sadist? They're masochists. Which one is it? The ones that enjoy being punished? Mm-hmm. I mean, because it's clear that they are not wanted and that they are not invited, literally, and yet they keep showing up.
I know.
So it's just the most bizarre.
Does
It's the most
anybody
bizarre
have even
thing.
a
The fact of
reasonable-
the matter is that more often than not, people who are log cabin Republicans are a specific type of gay person, which is someone who is cis, it's someone who's white, it's someone who's affluent, it's someone who will vote Republican for all the other issues outside of LGBT rights. They'll vote because they think they're scared of immigrants, and they're scared of Black and brown Americans. They're scared of all of these other things. They're scared of trans people, and they hate women, and it's things like that push them towards
And
Republican.
I think also the economy. They would say that it's the economy.
They always go to the,
Yeah,
oh, it's
all the
money, it's
money, yeah.
money.
We're coming back to money. Is that what we're
That's
saying?
what I think is the biggest
loyalty
reason.
is? Well, it's amazing to me because they were humiliated again this year in Texas for the Republican convention. Oh, you can't even come in the building. We're not allowing you because you're gay to be in the building. Donald Trump's comments about grooming and how despicable it is, what is going on. Ron DeSantis's actions here in Florida, which are just beyond, they border on, frankly, being fascist. And the log cabin Republicans continue to be loyal to them. And they get smacked in the mouth and smacked in the mouth and smacked in the
They're
mouth.
self-loathing, Al. They hate themselves. It has to be.
You know, I've said this before. It is not an original line from me, but one of the hosts, original host at It's Happening Out, Power Infinity, constantly would say to me, Al, what is it you're not getting? There are some roaches for raid. And I always ask these questions because it seems like that's what they are, roaches for raid.
Next, let's queer up gay culture. Lady Gaga kicks off USA tour with powerful message on LGBTQ plus rights. Lady Gaga kicked off her Chromatica tour this week in Washington, D.C. Gaga stopped the show at one point to bring up her thoughts on the recent overturning of Roe v. Wade. She commented on what it would mean to so many women as she performed Edge of Glory on a piano, saying, quote, I didn't mean to be like a downer, but there's some shit that's more important than show business, end quote. Later in the show, she commented on the expected attack on same-sex marriage. She transitioned into her song Born This Way, saying, quote, this might not be the national anthem, but it's our national anthem. They better not try to mess with gay marriage in this country, end quote.
I would like to dedicate this song to every woman in America, to every woman who now has to worry about her body if she gets pregnant. I pray that this country will speak up, that we will stick together, and that we will not stop until it's right!
Well, we love that, of course.
Of course.
Of course.
And do you have your tickets, by the way, for the concert in September? I do.
And
I can't afford it.
yeah.
So in those bleachers was Javier Gomez, who's been on our Instagram story. I have never seen anyone cry more on their Instagram story than his when he was at.
He cries more than you? You cry a lot.
I know, right? Exactly.
So for you to
Exactly
say
my
that-
point.
You know, she's been an advocate for women as long as she's been in the public eye, and I'm sure before. She's been an advocate for us as the LGBTQ community boldly. Yeah. Even when it wasn't quite as fashionable as it was, 5 or 6 years, like it goes back to like 2006, 2007, when we were in the fight of our lives in the first marriage equality fight. If you get a chance, see her jazz and piano show.
Yeah.
It is
She's super talented.
She's super talented. Juilliard
People do
trained.
not know that Lady Gaga is really talented. Not only can she really sing, when you take her out of her tracks and she sings, her voice is
Oh, the voice is
absolutely
phenomenal. Remember when she sang like classical on the Oscars a few years ago?
Yeah.
But you know what? I mean, I was not an early big fan, but I soon became a big fan. And she really walks the talk or talks, she does it all because she is such, as you said, such an advocate. But she is using her platform in such a way that is so inspiring and is so comforting because, I mean, she has such major talent. She really doesn't have to be that kind of advocate, and yet she is.
I'm curious to all of you now, and in agreement of that, you don't write a song like "Born This Way" in what's behind it, and not be an advocate for our community, and you don't write lyrics like "Don't be a drag, be a queen." Without being an advocate in the community. But I'm curious just on the counter side of what you saw here. If you're going to spend $200 or $2,000 now I know, but there are many people that are.
I'm sure they are now.
That buy a ticket for a concert like this or other concerts. do we just want to go to the concert, enjoy the concert, no politics?
No, I
No.
want it all.
No, I want to
it
hear
all.
that she supports
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
I
I want
want
her.
to hear from her. I mean,
yeah.
there's too much going on right now towards us, and we're such big supporters in the LGBTQ plus community for her. So, of course, I need for her to make
That's a bonus.
I've-
That's a bonus I want. That's the icing
Yeah.
on the cake.
Yeah, I've seen her, like her big, like Monsters Ball, not that's a movie, but you know what I'm saying, the show with my dad, actually, and then I saw her jazz and piano show
Your dad went
with my dad.
Lady Gaga.
We went to Vegas together to see these shows on 2 separate occasions. It was amazing.
Aw.
It was a really
Like he
it was a
wanted
great
to by
weekend.
his own free will, or you
Oh,
couldn't find a date?
He totally did, and he even bought me a shirt at the store that said "I love Lady Gaga."
Oh my gosh.
But I liked
a lovely
one of the
story.
things we liked, besides the fact
We're
that the
having
music was
dinner
more
with
toned
John's
down.
dad tonight.
Yeah, we are. It's going to be great.
He's a great dinner mate.
He is. But is that she talks with the audience, I think, more in the jazz and piano and the more laid back, because she can do music breaks. She's
More like
just
a cabaret,
jamming on the
yeah.
thing.
More like a
And
cabaret.
like I said, she's Juilliard trained. I mean, who here at this table can say that?
Yeah.
Actually, Dale can.
Nice setup.
Good setup. Thanks for that.
At the risk of a Twitter or an Instagram attack on me, funny because I'm not on either one, but if it was a conservative that was advocating for Donald Trump or Ron DeSantis at the concert, would we still be as pro? It's okay to be political.
Well, I mean, I think if those people, but are we talking about talent?
Well,
I mean, just-
right. No, and I ask a serious question.
And would
no,
we be at a
If
concert?
somebody did
Well,
maybe we love this
I think
singer or
that-
that singer.
well-
There are some that we love that are supporters of Ron DeSantis. We're supporters of Ron DeSantis of not closing up Florida. Might advocate for Ron DeSantis of not closing up Florida if you could have had a concert during it. I'm only asking from the standpoint of, are we talking a double standard? We love it because it's ours, but we don't love it if it's
Well,
not.
I don't support, I don't have an issue with people putting politics in music, but I don't support the viewpoint, right? I don't support anybody in any capacity spewing vitriol or hatred.
Right, but my question is very specific. Would you object? Would you go on your Facebook? Would you go on your social media?
I would stop
Bitch,
supporting and
complain.
following that person.
Yeah.
If Lady Gaga tomorrow was like, okay, I love Ron DeSantis and I want to close down all the drag shows, I'd be like, all right, I'm done. I am not a monster anymore.
right.
I'm done.
But she still has the right as an American citizen to do that.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
Now that makes sense to me.
Well, we move on and we queer up gay culture. Researchers claim that bachelorette parties are destroying LGBT safe spaces. In an op-ed in the Boston Globe, researchers Vincent Jones II, the director of the Health Promotion Center at York College, and Laurie Essick, the director of Gender, Sexuality, and Feminist Studies at Middlebury College, explore why LGBTQ plus bars and venues are failing in Provincetown. They coined the phrase heterification, or the heteronormalizing of queer spaces. Their research shows that as LGBTQ plus people have gentrified P-Town, it has led many affluent, straight, frequently white women to see it as a safe haven of their own, where men won't hit on them. In their report, researchers state, quote, like gentrification, we witness a cycle of displacement where those with the least resources are left with nowhere to go. The women are displaced by rape culture and seek refuge in queer spaces. But the queers are faced with tolerating the heterosexual gaze or not showing up at all. We know the end of this story because we know how gentrification works. Follow the money. Gentrification will destroy queer spaces and maybe even queer culture itself. End quote. I've got so much wrong with this story. First off, these people are going after women who want to have a nice night out but are afraid of getting raped and saying, oh no, don't come here.
They're scared of the white girl wasted girl.
Yeah. We wanted marriage equality, but now we don't want to share our bachelor or bachelorette spaces. We want corporate support, but then all we do is complain when people commercialize pride. Don't alienate our allies. My God, this is where we wanted to be.
I think the key thing here is when that like heterification becomes toxic, right? When these spaces are dominated by these bachelorette parties, and we're not able to have our culture in these spaces where we can meet other queer people, and they're dominated by this straight culture.
But when does that happen, Max? When is Hunter's like overtaken by a bunch of bachelorette parties? That doesn't happen. It'll be like a couple.
We've talked about brunches here with the Ron DeSantis business. And brunches are primarily
Our
straight
house
people.
and
Palace.
Palace.
Lip.
And Lip.
This is, and
Yeah.
Lips.
And
This
Lip.
is this is a little secret in the LGBTQ community that principally our entertainment venues, South Florida being an example, are completely dominated by straight guests and straight women. If you go into Lips, it is very dominated by who these researchers are attacking.
And you'll see very few gay groups on those occasions.
There's still plenty of gay people
but not,
in there.
not comparatively.
But not.
You're right. We don't have our bachelor parties at the drag show.
Georgie's Alibi,
Right.
or but Hamburger Mary's, and Hamburger Mary's in most markets are principally driven by the same kind of women, and then straight women that are having fun and parties and they're enjoying themselves. The question here is, does this harm? The real thing the researchers are getting to is that it harms our queer space,
a sense of community,
our sense of community even in our neighborhoods. If we can't think about what manners, because we defy every rule almost of every community in the country. But if you're in Tampa and there was a Hamburger Mary's, which there was, it's no longer there, but it was on 7th Avenue in Gaybor, was the nickname of Ybor City. But the Hamburger Mary's was completely dominated by straight women. It was a gay business, gay owned, gay workers, gay servers, gay performers, dominated by straight market.
And because it's kind of like a tourist thing to do, okay?
Right.
And that makes it more straight.
Yeah.
And they want to embrace us. Let's embrace them. And when they say they're not going to get hit on, possibly true. But a lot of men are still going to want to touch the boobs because that's what we do.
I think
I had no idea you were going.
That's the issue, right? Is when you have people who don't really understand intimately queer culture, when you have people who, straight women who say things like, "Oh, I want a GBF," and things like that, that really don't understand the nuances of the queer community, that want to come into these queer spaces, don't want to learn about those nuances, and then make it a more toxic space for the people that don't really have anywhere else to turn.
So then what happens to the people that are respectful and just want to go? Okay, I wasn't allowed to go to a certain boy strip club because I'm a female.
Right.
Okay, and you don't get more gay boy ally than me.
Let's tell that story, and we're not going to say which one.
Please, you tell it.
But we went to a gay strip bar, and I had Schaefer, very good friend of the show, who is trans, female, and Faye, and of course they wanted me to come.
Black card, Amex.
And it was, of course we want Al to come into this club. And I have Faye on one arm and the trans female on my other arm, but not them and not them. And it's like, oh no, there must be a mistake.
And I went like this. Is there women behind us? Because I couldnn't believe it.
She's more of a gay boy than I am, and both ways. And I had to get the owner involved, and it was like ultimately the owner said, "Okay, but just don't tell my husband, who was the other owner," and they seated us. But it was like like pulling teeth, because they were saying that bachelorette parties have gone in there in the past, and then they get white girl wasted, and then they fall over everybody and knock over the dancers, and then it gets messy. That's right. And the funny thing is, we're in this jam-packed strip club, a gay men strip club, and there's 200 gay men, and Faye and Schaefer, and the two most popular people for the dancers in the club are Faye and Schaefer. It was great for me. Schaefer, you're not moving from here. Faye, you're not moving from here. Great for me, right?
Yes.
Because all the dancers were straight in the gay club. They're working. It's a job. That's it.
So, but for the article and the comparing gentrification itself to heterification, I mean, it is true that gays move into neighborhoods that are on the decline or whatever. They clean them up. They make them look fabulous, and then the straights come in and take it over. I mean, that's been happening for decades.
Yeah.
So, I mean, do you see that?
It's called Village.
It's called South Beach.
It's called
Chelsea.
Yeah. It's called Kitchen.
Park Slope. Yep.
So do we see that as a valid comparison in this regard? I mean,
Well, I do, and but I tend to fall on the side of John's observation. It's like we shouldn't complain because it's exactly what we asked for. You can't live in this bubble of going, I want a bubble of protection, but I want a bubble of acceptance, and I want that bubble to grow and grow and grow, and it grows to a certain point where you go, okay, now we have acceptance, and they come into our spaces. We can't say, oh no, I'm sorry. It's like the old seniors here in Florida, that they retire here and go, okay, but no more people can come. Wait, you came to Florida because it's Florida. Yeah. You can't say, but nobody else can come because you got to come.
Well, and
it's the same kind of thing.
And it's also like the police at Pride. It's like we want them to be there, right, to support us and to keep us safe, right? But there's a lot of people in our community that get easily triggered by seeing police presence, and for that reason, we don't want the cops there.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. One last thought, and I want to come to you, Max, on this. So you're 20, you're a Gen Zer. The point of this story of what the researchers are talking about in terms of the isolation of the need for the gay club to keep our space, is this an issue that you think teenagers, gay, LGBT teenagers, Gen Zers even think about? Is this something even on your radar?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that part of the reason why, right, is because this ties into so many other ways that queer culture becomes commodified through things like rainbow capitalism, through things like stealing of LGBT slang, and LGBT slang is kind of more AAVE than actual LGBT slang, but I don't need to get into that. But we see how this, queer culture is commodified, is commercialized, and queer people are often priced out of queer experiences, even when you have more affluent people that also come into that space as well.
And related question to your answer there: does it even matter though? Because our Gen Zers in our LGBTQ community concerned, besides the observation you made, they're just going to move on and they're going to go into X or Y or Z, and it's not a traditional LGBT space, but they don't care. Is the balance of you can go anywhere you want as a Gen Zer and basically not give an F about anything that's going on, whereas perhaps, I won't even talk about anybody else at the table. Al, once upon a time, had to go into a Georgie's Alibi because it was the only place that would take an Al. Is that something that you think about?
I mean, I think that it's worth noting that there are still, bars that are not queer-centric, that are not gay bars, that aren't very accepting. And when you go into a gay bar, you have that sort of solace of knowing that you're going into a space that's built, by and for queer people, and that has that sort of sense of community that you might not get from.
So you're saying it's still important?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
To have queer-specific spaces, absolutely.
All right. Well, next, let's queer up trans rights. Brighton Pride Parade powerful float message, there is no LGB without trans, called Homophobic. In an article written by an anonymous author, the UK's Daily Telegraph newspaper on Monday attacked a float in the Brighton Pride Parade. The float, sponsored by the hardware company Wix, featured two signs. The first said, no LGB without the T, and the second said, ban conversion therapy for all. The article featured the headline, pro-trans pride sign by Wix, Homophobic, and included complaints from two women about the sign. The first woman was Alison Bailey, a lesbian lawyer and co-founder of the anti-trans LGB Alliance. She was joined by Kate Barker in the article. Barker is the managing director of the LGB Alliance. In the article, Bailey is quoted as saying, quote, "This is Wix promoting unlawful discrimination against lesbians, gays, and bisexuals, and making our rights conditional on supporting another group. We must assume that Wix have not understood the significance of this slogan. They cannot seriously believe that lesbians, gay, men, and bisexuals may not organize in our own interests without the permission of trans people." End quote.
I wonder who this anonymous author is. I bet maybe it's sort of the J, K, and the Rowling. And this LGB acronym is a dog whistle for anti. I mean, it's mentioned that
it is an anti-trans lobby group. Okay, and who complained? Those two women. That's it. Nobody else complained. When I looked at this initially, I saw nothing wrong with it. It said underneath, we stand by our trans brothers and sisters.
Right.
Okay, and I thought there was nothing wrong with it.
Yeah,
Except, well, I agree with what you just said in terms of the focus of the article for the newspaper. This is a major daily. This is a Chicago Sun-Times, a Miami Herald caliber paper in the UK. So we're talking about a major paper. This philosophy of focusing on LGB at the exclusion of the T is a very talked about subject in the United Kingdom. J.K. Rowling is comfortable in the UK because she can express the way she expresses.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And so the question there is, how is this discrimination against, when the point of the Wix float was, how do you have an acronym where the entire acronym works together? We add the Q here. Frequently in the UK, they do not. So for us, our branding style at Queer News Tonight and Happening Out Television Network and Hotspots Magazine is LGBTQ+. That's just a branding decision of our acronym. The point here is, in that sign that you're looking at on the float, is how do you have LGBT in the UK without the T included? How can you have an entire community without one of the acronyms? That's what the challenge is.
It's very specifically exclusionary. I mean, it's so pointed and it's really hateful.
But I really thought when I first saw it was that you can't have the LGB without the T. That's all I got from it. That's it. That if it weren't for the T, LGB would not be still standing. That's all I get from there. As a community, I don't see anything negative about it.
Absolutely.
Just to clarify, I meant the hateful was the LGBT alliance, not the sign.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Just to clarify that.
Yeah, and again, we need to stop attacking our allies. I said this earlier in the show, and it's even more important on this. And we've discussed abandoning the T on this show, like you said. So before the show, I reached out to my good friend Nick Zantop. He is the deputy director at Trans Inclusive Group, a wonderful organization. He told me, quote, "Equality is never something that needs to be rationed. With so many ongoing attacks against our transgender community here in the U.S., in the UK, and around the entire world, sowing division and hate has very real consequences that further threaten the lives and well-being of so many people who deserve nothing but joy and opportunity. We're proud to unite with the community, with everyone who believes in the power of coalition and togetherness." And this should be a no-brainer in the LGBTQAI+ community, whatever acronym you want to use. Just make it inclusive.
Do we think, to that point, and a very interesting quote, do you think that maybe part of the joke or complaint or hate, could be any of those three boxes, of the acronym growing the numbers of letters in our community might come from people that go, I want to be exclusionary. I don't want to add this or this or this. I want it to be LGB. Or I want it to be GLB.
Well, again, we see the use of LGB outside of this organization. We see that as a dog whistle for specifically anti-trans people. When the sort of commonplace acronym is LGBT, and you are intentionally excluding that T, you're sending a message there when you do that.
When I was at college at Ball State, and this was back in the early 1990s, we had the Lesbian Gay Alliance, and at that time, there was a push to include bisexuals into it. And oh my God, there was an uproar, not from the rest of the campus, but from at the time, the LG Alliance.
Yeah.
Like, we can't cannibalize ourselves because our group, because we'll just end up cannibalizing ourselves.
And I think it goes without saying that the people who have done the most to forward the LGBT civil rights movement are trans women of color. So exclude trans women in particular from this greater dialogue is extremely detrimental.
You know, I read an editorial just in the last couple of weeks that said and I find myself beginning to espouse it frequently. And it basically says that if with the attack we're facing the greatest attack that certainly in your lifetime, no one has seen in your lifetime the amount of attack that has happened in 22. 21 was bad, 22 never before. That if the LGBTQ plus and whatever other letters that you're comfortable in adding, unless they all work together to support each other, to stand together and to fight together, there's no possible way of defending against the kind of attacks that we're faced. CPAC happened over the weekend. It was arguably the greatest collection of LGBTQ plus haters in the history of the world in one room. Arguably the greatest ever in history. There's no way we can defeat that. And 8, 9, and 10 o'clock blocks at Fox News unless a whole community comes together. And so the issue is, of the editorial, are we going to do that? And their conclusion was, we're not. So therefore, we're going to be defeated. And that's what this issue is. Do you think we're going to stand up for the T?
We have to.
We have to, yeah. We have to. We're very clear here at this table that we
will. Now, would everybody do so? Maybe not. Old white people, old white cis men probably are like, no, I don't want to learn any more letters. I don't want to add any more letters to this acronym.
I know people who are young, not cis, whatever, who say, oh, it's enough for the letters. I can't deal with it anymore. I'm like, well, but you're not just willing to deal with it and grow and expand. I mean, it's
evolve.
It's a problem.
And when we have these attacks, and let's be real, a lot of these attacks against the LGBT community, especially in the state of Florida, are very, very, very targeted at the trans community. I mean, if you look at the quote, "Don't say gay" law, that is, if you look at the examples that they cite, the holding up the genderbread man, talking about gender ideology, this is anti-trans legislation more than anything else. And these attacks, when we see them trying to legislate trans youth out of existence, trying to ban gender affirming care from minors, we need to be able to stand up for the trans community.
I just want to draw, we're going to move on, but I just want to draw a conclusion to the story that I talked about the strip club with Faye. They had no problem with Al. I am privileged white guy in LGBT. I'm privileged white gay guy. I first off, even if I cared, I would be passable of not being gay. So therefore, whoop, there's the card right there, period. End of conversation. But even if I do pull out the gay card, I'm still privileged white gay guy. I go into our own community space and she can't come with me. And the trans person, especially next to me, oh my God, can't come into that space. But Al, you're welcome. That's in our own community. That's not Ron DeSantis in the Capitol, in the governor's mansion, which of course it would be there too. But that's not him. That's us. And that's what was so offensive about that moment. That's why I could have turned Faye, literally, there was nothing Faye could do. There was nothing Shay could do. Nothing. We please don't even speak to us because you can't. I take it to owner of going, no, wait just a minute. And you better make sure you come to the right conclusion or you're going to regret it. Because white, privileged, gay guy is going to completely take you on. Surrender. That's how she gets in. That's how she gets in. But that's in our own community. How do we win this fight if it requires that kind of commitment to go to the mat?
In Wilton Manors.
In Wilton Manors. Well, we're not talking about any particular place. Because it's a great business. We love the business. Mm-hmm. We love it. But that's where we're at.
Well, next, let's queer up education. Florida School District requires warning labels for LGBTQ plus books. After the conservative group known as Florida Citizens Alliance offered a list of books they wanted banned from Collier County school libraries for LGBTQ plus content, warning labels were advised to those books advising parents. The labels read, quote, "The advisory notice shall serve to inform you that this book has been identified by some community members as unsuitable for students. This book will also be identified in the Destiny system with the same notation. The decision as to whether this book is suitable or unsuitable shall be the decision of the parents who has the right to oversee his or her child's education consistent with state law," end quote. The labels are added as a compromise that allows the schools to still carry the books while also preventing the school from being able to be sued under the newly implemented Don't Say Gay law. Collier County's public school spokesperson Chad Oliver said in an email to NBC News, quote, "Based upon advice from the General Counsel, we placed advisory notices on books about which parents and community members had expressed concern and in accordance with the recently passed Parents' Bill of Rights law, HB 241, end quote.
One of the books that has this warning, Maya Angelou.
I know, right? I
know why the cage bird sings. Really?
I mean, really, right.
Really?
Angelou.
And it sends this message, right, that the queer community is something that needs an advisory label, that we are something that is inappropriate for children, that we're something that needs to be hidden behind warnings and behind, parental guidelines, warning symbols. It's absolutely ridiculous.
You're too young to remember this, but this reminds me of being serious. 1988, when Tipper Gore, the wife of future vice president and a solid Democrat, came out and said we need to put labels on music. Was it all music?
Right.
No. It was black music. It was rap. It was Two Live Crew.
Yep.
And I also harken back, sorry to be the retro guy today, but this kind of reminds me, in this environment, it kind of reminds me of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. It's kind of a win for us because these books, unlike another county up by Tallahassee, just kicked them out, sent them down here to the Stonewall Museum. So we're still sort of winning, but it's still very, very insulting. And I think that Bible and religious books should also have this label because they have been identified by some community members as unsuitable for students, and I would support that.
Yeah, for clarification, because we continue to say Collier County. Collier County is Naples on the west coast of Florida. And if it makes any difference in our conversation, with the exception of an island of a portion of St. Petersburg and Pinellas County and Hillsborough County, which are very blue, most completely the west coast of Florida is solid red.
Yep.
And Naples being the southernmost portion of the west coast of Florida. That's the area that we're talking about. Do we think that this kind of move, as opposed to Tallahassee, Leon County, by the way, your reference is to the capital of Florida, scary. Do you think that this kind of labeling is going to be a trend that we'll see more of, or it's going to be Tallahassee, Leon County?
I think it's going to be more Tallahassee, Leon County. I bet we'll have labels in Broward just to make parents stop suing. Yeah. Just to say, okay, we'll do this.
Saying you're saying again that it's a quote unquote good thing.
No, I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm saying that's what I think will happen. That's what I think will happen to Broward.
It's a rather have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Opposed to not have.
Right. Yeah. Rather have by good. I mean rather have than complete excommunication of the
It's kind of like we would rather have a sticker on the drag queen's forehead going, you know, this is potentially
right. I'm about to twerk.
Max, I'm curious. You were so involved in the Don't Say Gay issue. You know, we currently are in the L column on it, and the law's been implemented, and likely it's going to get worse. Still, where do you think this is all going? What do you, from your advocacy for our youth organization, where do you see this going?
This has the potential to spread. I agree with John that this is definitely a compromise that at least allows us to have these books. Obviously, we don't appreciate, again, needing warning labels on our community, but it at least means we can have these books, you know, in an accessible way. But you know, I think that this definitely has the potential to spread, and it does send a really unfortunate message. But I'm glad that at least those books are still allowed to be accessible.
One last question before we move on. How do you think students in Collier County, from I know you're not in Collier, and PRISM doesn't represent generally in Collier County, but if you're LGBTQ and you're a teenager in Collier County and you pick up a book that has content about your authentic existence being LGBTQ, what's your reaction of how you would feel about that if you're reading a book that has an advisory notice that says there's been objection?
It feels explicitly taboo at that point. I mean, when you're young and you pick up something with like a parental advisory on a CD, that immediately feels taboo. It makes rap and black music feel taboo, and it sends that signal. So that is extremely harmful, and sort of the perception that we have of the LGBT community as a whole.
It might also attract some people because it's a taboo
It's
thing.
appealing.
There's also going to be other people that are like, I didn't know if I was, but why not? Let me pick up this publication and see if.
Yeah, NWA made one of their CD labels just the parental advisory label back in the day, and it went platinum.
Yeah, except
great appeal.
Except we're dealing with teenagers, where Trevor Project has told us the bullying nature that gets created against LGBT is life-threatening. So while there may be marketing benefit, and I completely agree with what you just said, it on balance doesn't outweigh the life-threatening issue that this is at play. And one other thing that pops into my mind, last thought, Max makes the joke about his handle of vote bitches. I keep wondering to myself, we do stories like this and stories like this and stories like this, what is going to be the linchpin to get our community to change it? And the only way you can change it is by voting. Bitching doesn't do it, period.
Vote bitching does.
Right. All right, finally, we queer up the road to Stonewall. Pride Fete is here, celebrating a diverse South Florida community. Some good news. Hotspots Happening Out Television Network has partnered with Pride Fort Lauderdale and the City of Wilton Manors to bring an LGBTQ plus Caribbean Pride Festival back to the island city. The newly branded Pride Fete takes its name after a recognizable French word in the carnival community meaning party. The authentic Caribbean fest will represent the heart of carnival culture while set in the heartland of South Florida's premier LGBTQ plus destination, Wilton Manors. Two elements rarely infused together. Hosted by, now it's a long list here and I'll do my best on names. I apologize in advance. Older white guy. Octavia Yearwood, Keishai Chad, and John Buckley. Listen for sounds by She J Hercules, DJ Jesse Mix, and the Whiskey Chick, and look for appearances and performances by Fete Boys, Heart Twins, Kitty Meow, Carnival Bounce Crew, Bella, Richard Forbes, Jaya Devi, Natasha Witches, Venom, Nanny G, Frankie Redwoods, and many more. The event is this Saturday from 6 to 11 p.m. and you can get discounted general admission or VIP tickets at pridefete.lgbt.
I'm so excited for this. I am so excited. My dad's, as we've mentioned, my dad's in the audience. My dad will be at Caribbean Fete with all of us
You know he will.
this Saturday, and it's going to be, my dad loves jerk chicken, and this is going to be some really authentic food. So I'm sorry, I'm just excited about it.
Got such a good joke.
Most-
too.
Do you?
Well, only half of the
Oh my
phrase is
God.
true. Jerk is
my
true.
God.
Just saying.
But Dad also liked the outfits of the dancers. He's going to be
Oh,
loving all those
yeah.
feathers. He's going to be
Right,
chasing
right.
all those people around, having a great
Oh,
old time.
yeah.
They've really put together such an array. It looks so fantastic. I mean,
And you know what's
Yes.
great about it is it's not in some of the really ethnic neighborhoods in Miami-Dade County, for example. It's in Wilton Manors. So diversity increases dramatically.
And it's so
that
important
one
because
day.
because the Caribbean culture often, shuns their LGBTQ citizens. So to have not only a pride party, but also in, Gay Central
Yeah.
is symbolic and important
it is
and sends a message.
for the Caribbean.
I can't wait for the food. The food's going to be
Yeah,
delicious.
it's going to be awesome.
You know we were going to talk about the food when Faye what is at the table? It's the food. All right.
Well, next, we are proud of our special partnership with Sunshine Cathedral, the world's largest queer church, and it's right here in Fort Lauderdale. Supporting that partnership, we are broadcasting from our permanent set here at Sunshine Cathedral at the Happening Out television studios. We broadcast Sunshine Cathedral's Sunday International Service at 10:30 a.m. Eastern, with more than 30,000 people watching every week.
I'm John Buckley from Unity Coalition and Celebrate Orgullo, and Sunshine Cathedral is my queer church.
Love you, Buck.
We need to see more of him.
What do you mean, more?
I'm sure he'll be wearing.
I know you want-
Like he should be on a
Just
show.
as FYI, we're doing tomorrow on Queer News Tonight, we're doing the Black Edition, where the Black community takes over the entire show, and John Buckley is the lead anchor.
And I'm sure you'll see plenty of him at Pride Fete because I'm sure he'll be wearing
Very little.
wearing very little.
Very little. You know that Buck has his outfit ready. Buck, we're looking for you. We can't wait. So that is today's news for the LGBTQ plus community on the world's first and only daily LGBTQ plus evening news show.
If our community is important to you, share this news with your friends and family. Are you, like most of America, part of our very large television audience watching this live LGBTQ plus news broadcast right now on Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, and Amazon Fire TV?
Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ plus digital television show in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines. We need your support.
If our community is to grow, we must tell our stories and bring them to the attention of the broader world.
Well, this is the only place in the entire world that tells these types of LGBTQ plus stories in motion and sound. And that is the passion of Hotspots Magazine, Happening Out Television Network, and especially Queer News Tonight. I'm your anchor, Al Ferguson, and on behalf of these LGBTQ plus reporters, the anchors of Queer News Tonight, including FayWhat and John Hayden, Maxx Fenning, and Dale Stine. We will see you daily at 8 p.m. And to our LGBTQ plus world, we wish you
Good night.
Good night.
LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Laura are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out Television Network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the